Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dr. Gail, and this is Diana Boles, aka Oil Painter. Y'all know her from the chat and other channels she's been on. And thanks for joining us, Diana. Let me say hello to people here in the chat: Emerald Buddha, Earth Mama, Vivian. Hey, Susie 007. Susie's in the background, and she'll be monitoring the chat. Hey, Earth Mama. Let's see who else is here. Ooh, I went all the way down. Okay. Hey, Deb. Hey, Hypnicity. Hey, Tina. Hey, In-Car. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the ETs and aliens, and then we're going to talk about, Diana's going to talk about astrologies. Hey, Kelly. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to make a few announcements first. And let's see. Next week, well, this is our last show of the year, so Happy New Year, everybody. And next week, on Monday, of course, we'll have the Slayers Healing Center again. Everybody will need a healing for the start of the new year. And then the next one is going to be, I'll have a Preston Bennett who's coming on Wednesday the 4th. And he is the author of about 30 books. And here's the one I'm reading now. If y'all want to get up on what he's doing, it's The Healing Power of UFOs. And it's Preston Bennett. And what he has done is he has collected all sorts of people and their information about healing and how they've been healed by the aliens or UFOs. And it's real interesting. If y'all want to catch up on it and see if you can read his book, it's The Healing Power of UFOs. Now, this is one of his earlier books. He has a whole lot more out there. And it is people's accounts of their healing sessions or whatever was happening to them or their exposure to the ETs and what's happened to it. And it's real interesting. And so anyway, he'll be here on Wednesday to talk about that. We'll talk about all his books, I'm assuming. So, but that's the one I've got, and that's the one I'm really interested in. And anyway, that'll be good. So, okay. Diana, it's your turn.
Yes.
Okay. Oh no, where'd you go? As soon as it's her turn, she's gone. Hopefully she'll be back in just a minute. There she is. I don't hear. Do you have your volume up, Diana? It was a UFO. Hey, Prince Tony's mom. Hey, Teresa. Hey, White Dragon. I'm not hearing you, Diana.
Well, somehow I clicked off my mic. I never even touched it. So here we go already. Mercury went retrograde this morning.
Oh, we're going to talk about ETs and aliens before we go into the retrogrades. Okay. All right. So tell me about your experience. Tell me about your very first experience with an alien or an ET.
You know, that's, of course, probably my very favorite because I was still quite young. Let me get this picture up and show you, because what I had seen is see if I can get this.
This is the benefit of being an artist. Oh, you saw an insectoid. Okay.
A lubber. Right? This grasshopper is called a lubber.
A lubber.
And he's very big. He's an eastern lubber. And I grew up in Detroit, in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And on a man's hand, a lubber can fill up this much.
Oh, wow.
Big, fat, juicy, right? So imagine being 4 years old. Either I just had my 4th birthday or I was approaching my 5th birthday, but it was, I can remember that I was 4 because my mother said, the imagination of a 4-year-old, right? But I was sitting on the porch and I looked to my left. We had a pretty big porch. It was just one of those 1947 asbestos frame houses. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of like a Cape Cod. And so the cement porch that was on there was very big. And as a child, it's like, oh boy, this is my playroom. My brothers cannot come here, right? So anyways, I'm sitting on the porch and I look to my left and I see a lubber, but he is as big as me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seated, but he's still as big as me, because if he stretched his legs, he would stand as tall as me.
Mm-hmm.
Now you notice that the lubber has yellow stripes on the being that I saw. The stripes went all the way around his thorax and abdomen. So they weren't just edging along where he probably folds up his wings.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the head of a praying mantis,
Yeah.
and not a grasshopper's head.
Right.
And I looked and I looked again, and he looked at me. I know he said something. Could I tell you today what it was? No. But I was overjoyed with having seen this. So I went to go get my mother. Of course, my motion made him disappear, but I didn't realize that because I'm all excited and running in the house. I drag her outside and I tell her, and I go, oh, he's gone. And that's when her conversation about, oh, your imagination, Diana, stop it. Well, it wasn't the first time. I mean, it wasn't the last time that I ever saw something like that. And praying mantises, as the insects they are, come to me. It's like they flock around me. They show up from places that they weren't. They haven't been. They shouldn't even be. And yet there they are. And they come to me like St. Francis of the praying mantis. So anyways, and then when I was about 12, my mother and I were coming home from a Girl Scout meeting, and my mother was pretty open. She was, she played the tarot card and was into crystals and everything like that, even when I was a child. So she and I were coming home, and it must have been about 1962. So there was rhetoric starting to really make the news about ETs and unidentified flying objects. And we lived in an area that had a great big open field, even though we were in the city. And there wasn't a lot of outside noise lights at night, street lights and stuff of that nature. So we were able to really see things coming and going in the sky. And she had been keeping her eye on the night sky for a long time. And we stopped this one particular night because she started talking about them and said, just like that, that's what I'm talking about. And we looked up to the sky, and there were pyramid-shaped lights around this dark figure. Looked pretty much like what's over your left shoulder. And it was darting back and forth quickly in big zigzag back and forths, and suddenly just zipped away. Wasn't the first time it was that first time, but it wasn't the last time that she had stopped with me in the car.
What'd your mother say about that? So she just missed you the first time, and then y'all
said,
saw that.
I know, right. But this was, mind you, this is like, if I'm 12, if I was 4 back then, this is 8 years later. So she's come a long way since then. And she had an encounter because she had a moment of a lapse. Now, I was not with her when that happened, but I do know that the next time she and I were in the car and she stopped to point to the sky, she said, I know something happened, blah, 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 and had this conversation. And years later, in I want to say it was about 98, maybe it was a little bit before that, she had an itty bitty triangle piece of metal taken out of her leg that nobody could identify, that nobody knew where it came from. So, of course, the thought was that little piece of metal was an implant that was probably put in her back at the time of this time lapse that she had talked about.
Yeah.
And since then, on UFO shows on Gaia and, Ancient Aliens, I've seen that piece of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it in a pill vial. And then when she passed away, the house got turned upside down and that pill vial got lost. So
Oh,
I
wow.
no longer have that little piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I see like Gorsh. What's the frog's name in your story? In your
Borgoff.
Borgoff. I see creatures like that as an adult are large, not as large as me, but I do see them. I hear them speak. I hear them speak in a light language. I hear them speak in a vibration, not in the language that I can understand, but I can't translate, know? And these are findings while I'm out walking through the woods, or meditating, have full conversations with animals that actually are not animals, that I believe several of them to be ETs. The other morning I was meditating and I hadn't thought about that triangular shape spaceship that my mother had seen with me in a long time. But it came into my meditation field and it was delivering a message. Can I tell you what it was now? No, because it was pertinent to the 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and now a million other things have happened. But when it was finished, it started out as a triangle, as a pyramid, not just a triangle, but as a pyramid. And there was a pink, yellow, golden light coming out of the bottom. No flames, no glitter, but just a pulsation sense you could feel, you could hear, you could see a quiver in the light. And as that collapsed, the pyramid took a torpedo shape, the cigar shape, and just split really fast. And then the next morning, I got a 911, and that was it. It said 911, 911. And well, the next morning we had all of that crazy wind, which would have been yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. And there was crazy wind here yesterday. I don't know what kind of M-class flares we had, but it was crazy.
We had a lot of winds here too.
And I a lot of the others that I encounter and see are celestial, so they have this angelic appearance about them for me as well. But they don't quite look like the Nativity angel. They don't quite look like the cherubs that Michelangelo painted. They don't quite. They look more like Zoroaster, sitting in his winged phoenix spaceship, and so there's something angelic, celestial about them, but they have a different type of physical appearance. The blue, they're Palladians, right? The blues.
It can be, but it can be. We identify usually Arcturians as blue, but
Arcturian. That's actually what I'm saying. Yeah. Yes. So my encounters, I want to say I have them daily. Because they come in dreams, because they come during meditation or lucid moments. It's fleeting. I know it happened. Can I translate it to you? No, because it often comes as a feeling, and it's very difficult to put that into words.
Yes, it is. So anything else before we go into astrology?
No, because I've never had a negative encounter. So
I haven't either. So
no, right.
fortunate.
And so many people are worried and fear and think that it's all negative. I've never had a negative encounter.
I haven't either. And a lot of the negative encounters, it would be nice. I mean, I know those ETs are not here anymore that were doing the abductions, and they're off planet or been chased off planet. So we don't hear about abductions like we used to. And I think most people do have more pleasant experiences than it was, say, like in the 50s and 60s, maybe in the 70s.
Right. Sure. I mean, evil can take on many forms, right? We know that. And if we think back to the ancient times and how the celestials that came were called angels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there wasn't the language that we have today, and we still can't identify it correctly, you know. So the sinister energy and magic and all of that, it's all connected. We just don't know exactly how. And if we're on this, time is not something that's linear. Time is an orb. It is ever present. It is ever instant. And who's to say we're not them? We don't know, because time is not linear. It's an orb. And we're coming back checking on ourselves.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's so many questions that just can't be answered, but this cannot be ruled out by any means. And there's just too many, you can't make this shit up. You know, there's so many people coming forward and tried to come forward back in the 50s and were shushed and pooed, and no, don't do that. You know?
Well, we have a few questions in the chat right now, so we'll answer a few of them, and then we'll move right into the astrology part, because I think these are probably ET related questions. So we'll go ahead and take a few of those, and then we'll move to astrology. Sure. So who's first? Hey, Pamela. Hi, excited to see you. Just wondered what flavor of ET did I see near my nightstand. Okay. See somebody not sitting on your nightstand, not just seeing it right there. It looks like a tall, thin.
Well, I'm getting that blue thing again.
Yeah. And this one's really thin. So I'm thinking that it's a thin Arcturian, thinner than normal. Celeste. It's a female. Her name is Celeste. Or she wants to be called her earth name, Celeste.
Celeste?
Mm-hmm. And I see her sitting on your nightstand with her leg crossed, her arms crossed, like she's tapping and waiting for you. She has a sweet spirit. Okay, there you go, Pamela. It's an Arcturian that's sitting on your nightstand. Apparently, she's waiting for you to connect to her, or the two of you to connect. She's there just waiting. So, I hope that helps. All right, next. Hey, White Dragon. There's a shapeshifter hanging around at my place at night. I've seen it as a small dragon and a hawk. Have you ever seen a shapeshifter? I think that's for you, Diana, because of course I have. I mean, even my dog Moon is a shapeshifter, and I believe she has shown up at your place, White Dragon. So how about you, Diana? Have you seen a shapeshifter?
Oh, yes. They come to me, you know, as a hawk and then turn into a fox while it's in flight. And then suddenly it's scampering and running away. And things like this happen, you know, when, of course, there's nobody else around, or they don't catch it, or they only catch a part of it, you know. So it's like you question yourself, did I even really see that? But no, shapeshifters do exist. They are there.
I think I have actually stopped questioning myself anymore. I did a lot in the beginning. Of course, I thought I had a brain tumor. I kept saying I had a brain tumor. So anyway, it took me a long time.
Heyoka can certainly be playing tricks on you, but then again, that's another shapeshifter. That's a coyote. You know, coyote is the trickster. He loves to play little games with you. So even if there isn't a message coming your way, he might be the one producing all of this. Oh my gosh, a great big orb just went past me in here.
That's good. Okay, next.
I thought it was my hand. There's my shapeshifter.
So anyway,
so that was my chief. He went by.
I see White Dragon. I think that might have been Moon. Could very well be, because she is a shapeshifter, and I've seen her in three different forms. So okay, next question. Okay, Rowena, I had a couple of days about 30 years ago playing with a praying mantis that came to my kitchen window. I showed it things that I do, eating with utensils, drinking from a cup. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I've had more than one, but in the very beginning when I was meeting the ETs, I met two separate praying mantis. The first one showed me how they could grow tall. In fact, I went back to my friend Meg going, I just met a grasshopper. And she said, that's called a praying mantis. And but it could go tall, and then it can go short, and it was living in caves, but they could go out. Anyway, it was very versatile. That was almost like a shapeshifter. And then the next praying mantis was in the car with me, telling me what my future was going to be, telling me that I was going to be rescuing aliens or ETs. And I'm going, yeah, right. But of course I did.
And they're really watching.
Yeah, and they're so smart. They're so smart.
They are engaged with what it is you are saying to them. They are understanding. They are certainly creatures that don't seem to be the normal insect world of Earth.
Yeah, and it seems like they do interact with children a lot. It does seem like they do. You hear stories that if somebody says, I saw this as a child, a lot of times it is a praying mantis. So they're really interested in children. Okay, next question. Hey, Wendy, people are still disappearing. Are they being taken by ETs? I'm not so sure, Wendy. I don't want to say, but it could be. I don't want to announce it on YouTube, but it could be people on Earth. But I don't think the ETs are doing that now. So you can kind of read between the lines there, Wendy. Okay, next question. Hey, Seascape. I was 6 to 7 years old, climbed up a tree. A huge praying mantis was sitting there. We sat and stared at each other. I crawled down fast. Was it an ET? Yes, and exactly what I was just saying, Seascape. They seem to be extremely interested in children. And you hear that over and over again. That's what children have encounter a praying mantis. So, and I think they do that because they're not as scared, and they'll go ahead and interact with them. So anyway, that's great. Okay, and we're going to take this last question, and then we're going to go into the astrology part. Okay, one more question. Okay, Earth Mama, I enjoy these talks, and I have no clue why. I only seen one alien craft in my life, or like it was a black triangle. Oh, Earth Mama, you're connected. That's why you're interested. You're trying to learn what your connection is with the aliens or ETs. So you might have the name Earth Mama, but Earth Mama, you're connected with the stars too. So, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. This will be the last ET question, and then we're going to go into astrology. Is it Marilla? Okay. My husband and I encountered beings at Mount Shasta area at Lake Siskiyou. Why did I felt so sick after that? We also have pictures of them. Well, it's very common to be sick. In fact, my first interactions, I had to go on a bland diet, and recently had to go on a bland diet again. And they send me on a bland diet because I want to be having some interactions with them. And I immediately get sick. I am very nauseated. It's almost like flu symptoms. So I think that's very common for having interactions with them because their vibration is so high that we are just not used to that. And so your body
Right.
reacts to that. And I have to warn people about when they're wanting to meet an ET, they keep going, I want to meet one in 3D. I want to meet one in 3D. Well, the consequences are going to be physical. So it's not just going to be a whole, hi, how are you doing? You're going to physically react to that encounter because their vibration is higher. You got anything to say about that?
It's like going to another country when you encounter a vibrating entity that can offer you so much, right? And so somewhere in the middle, you're trying to find common ground. And so it's like getting high elevation sickness when I moved to Colorado, until your body adjusts and think about it, you're so enthralled with the encounter, your breathing has changed just on that alone. You're like, it's like a Wim Hof session going.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty common thing is the fight or flight syndrome going on in your own body when you encounter them. But when I was learning how to fly the spaceship and I had been on my bland diet for 5 days before, I mean, I don't know, maybe a month that every time I was encountering them, I was sick afterwards. That eventually went away and they told me it would, but I kept going, well, it's still worth it. It's still worth it. Okay. We were going to go into astrology talk after this question. So we're not going to highlight any more questions until we get into the astrology. So, hey, Kelly, sometimes I think you feel when you change energetically. Ill. Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I saw, you all know what a orb weaver spider looks like? She is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous spider. It is orange and white and black with a thumb-shaped body. Now, they're big spiders to begin with. But I've seen big ones, but I had one in my tomato plants that was bigger than big. I mean, her body alone was bigger than my hand. And I just kept thinking, I know Miracle Grow is not affecting you. This has got to be something else, The Miracle Grows for the tomatoes got nothing to do with you. And the regular life cycle of the spider, she was there for 30 days. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like she never moved, yet there were eggs and there was food. And she ate and left the carcass of it and came back. So that was when I lived in Virginia. So that was another one of those moments where this ain't normal. This has got to be an encounter.
Okay, I'm going to address the sickness one more time because I see them talking about it in the chat. Yes, it is a lot like flu symptoms, but I did just go through that just here recently again when they had me go on a blind diet for 7 days, and I was going again through flu symptoms, and I just knew what was happening this time. The first time I had no idea, but again, I kept saying it was worth it. Okay, let's go into astrology. All right, let's tell us what's happening with the retrogrades.
What's happening? Well, today, Mercury went retrograde. And everybody goes, oh, no. Relax. We've been dealing with Mercury retrograde, even though it wasn't retrograde, because Mars has been retrograde in Gemini, and Mercury rules Gemini. And with Mars in Gemini, you can't take any action because he's retrograde, but you can do a lot of talking. And what's been going on?
Okay. All right. So now come back and speak English. You spoke astrology.
Okay. So what is a retrograde? A retrograde is when a planet is in its closest orbit to the Earth. Most planets don't have a perfect circular spin around the sun, and we're both on the same side of the sun. The sun is actually in the center, but when we look at an astrological chart, the planet Earth, where we live, is what we use as the center. So everything else is going around in this orbit. But in reality, we are going around the sun together. So
Okay.
when a planet goes retrograde, it isn't really backing up, but it looks like it. Because if you think about traveling on the expressway and you're doing 80 miles an hour and the guy next to you is doing 85 and you take your foot off the gas, you're not going backwards, but he's still going forward faster than you are. And that's what gives the illusion of that backward take. So it looks that way because the other planet is traveling close to Earth at its nearest point, at a point where it can't get any closer in the orbit. So some planets like Pluto, Chiron, have an elliptical orbit that goes out way far and comes back. Chiron is it's also undulating as well as going, not quite cigar shape, but in this oval rather than a circle. So Mars has been retrograde since October 20th. I think it was October 12th when it had entered its shadow phase. So whenever anybody talks about a shadow phase of a retrograde planet, that means it has entered the area, moving forward in its first leg of the journey, covering the same territory that it is going to station and then appear to go backwards, going over those same degrees in the journey again. So that is the review stage of the event. So whatever happens, whatever is prominent in your life on the day that that happens, if you know your own chart, kudos, look at your chart, see where that planet is. What house is that planet in your blueprint? My Mars is in Taurus. So that's the house. It's in the 8th house. That's where I'm going to be affected with this Mars retrograde.
Okay.
All the things that are the Scorpio house, even though it's in the Taurus sign, because the chart rotates according to the time of day you were born and the day and the year. So all those components work together. So as this retrograde begins to occur and it recovers this territory, this is the shadow phase, because now it is shadowing, going backwards through that first shadowy cast to examine everything that you did from the point to the point of. And now you get to look at it and study it and make the changes.
Okay, so when it goes in retrograde, you're working on the shadow of what you had done on that day or that time period?
Right. You're looking at what was the day like? What was the energy of the day? What did you have to deal with? What was going on worldwide as well? Because all of those things have a chart of their own as well. So we're all under the same blanketed sky. And we're all going to feel something because we have all the planets in our charts.
So when we're going in retrograde, we should have the best day ever. Have a party. Make it a really good
there
day.
You go. There you go.
Work to do during the whole time. Okay.
Right.
Okay. That sounds good. That's a good plan.
Yeah. So sometimes when a planet goes retrograde, it goes into another sign. You know, it'll start off in one sign, make an advancement forward, stop, and go backward and go back into that sign it was in when it began. It's shadow phase. So now we're going backwards, examining all the things that happened, and we get to take this rear view mirror look at, oh, I should have done that differently. I'd had a better outcome if.
Now,
I really liked how that worked. Let's do that again.
Yeah, which planets is it that you're looking at that going in retrograde that you are having to deal with your shadow self? All of them?
Oh, well, the nodes of the moon are more of your shadow self than
nodes of the moon. And
which
can
is
you
a
tell
different story. But all of the planets have a retrograde phase. All
Yeah,
of the
I knew
planets
that
deal
part of
with
it.
shadow. Right. So, and every planet, and it's a combination of house and planet that takes you into your shadow self. You
Okay.
know, I'm a Gemini sun. I have a positive Gemini and I have a negative Gemini. I'm a Libra rising. Okay, they both, one looks for balance. The sun is wanting to deliver information. Then I have a Sagittarius moon, which means I was born under a full moon because Sagittarius is the sign opposite um, Gemini. And so now I want that higher education to deliver the information.
Right.
And not only do I have this Libra rising, but my Aries North Node is in Aries, right? Which is opposite this Libra sign
Where you
on the zodiac.
where you're going into
So
astrology talk again. Into
yeah,
the foreign language.
and
Going
I'm
into
going
the,
wah, 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 wah.
the foreign
Well, what I'm
language.
trying to say is, these four things working together,
Uh-huh.
particularly when it comes to the fact that my South Node is conjunct my rising sign, and my North Node is the vehicle that you want to drive to be your highest self. And as human beings, what are we here for? We are here to learn our best lesson and be our highest self, correct?
Right.
So if your sun sign is who you are when you just meet people, and the rising sign is who you are when you get close to people, and your moon sign is the emotional side of whether you show it to people or not, the North Node tells you how to attain your highest self. And since the rising sign is the sign you are when you let people in, when you let people get very close to you, that is the sign that you really are dealing with to be your highest self, because the others are going to follow suit if you are rising, ascending to your highest self. And that
Okay.
North Node is the vehicle that can get you there, because by being the best of your North Node, you let go of the things that are in the South Node. Now,
Okay.
I just happen to have junk.
Yeah,
Not everybody.
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop you there, Diana, because we got a lot to cover because we want to know what's coming
Okay.
up for 2023, and then we have questions to take. So, quick,
Okay.
tell us what's happening real quickly in 2023.
What's going to happen in 2023? We can finally take a deep breath because Pluto's going to tickle his toes into Aquarius. He's going to, this is this big planet that is just this little pea shooter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's causing all the havoc all around the world. So we think he gets a bad rap because he's the Lord of the underworld.
Right.
Now, when he goes into Aquarius, we are in the dawning of Aquarius for sure, just like the song says.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gives us a taste of what it's going to be like, he's going to be there from early May till end of July, and then he's going to retro back into Capricorn, but he's never going to go as far back as he is right now. I think he, like he's 15 minutes away from being in the degree that he's at now. I think the farthest he goes is he's at 28 right now, close to 27, and I don't think he gets any farther than 27 and 30 minutes, 33 minutes, something like that.
Okay,
So when he goes back into Capricorn.
Okay, well, let's go skip to significant dates or days on the year that you were telling about earlier.
Okay, so the Ides of March is going to be a difficult time because this is going to be one of the Pluto moments and Uranus moments. And then we can also consider what will happen around Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is going to be difficult this year. And
How about good days?
the middle of June, middle of June is going to have a few eye-opening moments for everybody, but a couple of people in particular, because Uranus and the sun are going to be conjunct in Gemini. And that's going to be around the 18th, 17th, 18th of June. So the hardest parts are going to be in March and November. It's not that June isn't going to be a good thing. It's just going to be one of those, here we go again moments, like Dolly Parton walking in the room singing.
Okay, so, anything else before we go into the questions?
Well, just to finish up on retrogrades. So when it stops, after it goes through that shadow phase and gets back to where it was when it started the shadow phase, it's going to go forward all over again. So you go forward, you look at it, now you're going backwards, you dissect it, what needs to be changed, what should you copy and do again. And now when it goes forward, that's when you take action. So it should, especially, I've been saying this for most of this year, but especially through the month of December, through the month of November, October, it's been think twice, act once, think twice, speak once. It's going to stay that way till March. January 12th, we'll be able to see some forward movement on things because Mars will station to go direct. And Mars is in Gemini retrograde. So when he stations to go direct, this is a good thing. But he's going to hang in the same position and only move a couple of seconds for 3 or 4 days, almost a whole week before he actually makes any forward movement. So when he begins this slow trek forward, then we can begin to take actions, but we have to take baby steps. This is the early part, end of January. From the 12th to say the 23rd, it's baby steps, very little movement. After that, we can start to make advancements and changes. But remember, he's still going to be in Gemini. This is an unusual event. Not that he's retrograde for 7 months, because that's normal. He is retrograde for a long time, all the time. But he is spending all that time only in Gemini. And him and Mercury are bros. And Mercury is the only guy who can go down to the underworld with Pluto and come back unscathed and deliver the message that Pluto's trying to get out. So the three of them will be working together, but Mars will be working through Gemini to understand what Pluto's trying to do. This is going to apply to all of us in any shape or form, because so many of us are at a point where we're making changes in our lives. The generational planets, which are the big outer planets, they stay in a place for a long time. They affect a generation of people. So people close to my age all have Uranus or Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn in Virgo, just like me, because those are sort of generational things.
Okay, can we go ahead and start with the questions? Are you ready to start taking questions? Okay. Sure. All right, Susan, we can start for wherever we took off, and we can start with those questions again. And also, if anybody does want an astrological chart from Diana, you can get her. You can go ahead and say where they can get you. It's your email address. How can they contact you?
Right there. oilptnr@aol.com.
Okay, so this is a good time of year to get your reports done and find out what's going to happen the next year, to get more details, so you can contact her if you want a reading. So anyway,
right,
okay,
and help the blueprint of your chart, help to understand the blueprint of your life, your chart.
And you do it intuitively. Also, everybody can get a chart, but also somebody, or she looks at it, and it's more of an intuitive looking at your chart. So that makes it different than you getting your own chart and you're sitting there going, okay, what is this? That's how I react. I got it in my hands. What am I going to do now?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I
let's
can
go
look
to
at this. What are all these little glyphs? What is that? What does that number mean? How come this one's red and this one's not? What's this
okay.
R?
Let's go ahead with our next question, Susie. What's in store for Scorpio, born November 1st, this 2023? Thanks.
Well, Scorpio is going to have, we have 2 more eclipses coming up in Scorpio and Taurus. They're going to happen around the same time that they happened last May. So it's going to be pretty much the same thing, just a couple of degrees different. So think back to last May. I don't know, you're November 1st. Well, we had eclipses November 8th, right? We had election on an eclipse. You see how that turned out. It was not what it was cracked up to be. It was completely the opposite. So expect more of that to be happening again. But those November eclipses are going to be in Sagittarius. So when we're in the May eclipses, you will be addressing what was started for you back in that time. And since you're a Scorpio, I would take a look at your health. Did you have a health issue come up back then? This should be the time that you can resolve it.
Oh, okay.
In May. In May.
Okay. Well, that's good. There you go, Inkar. Okay, well, next question. Ethnicity. I recently found out that I have the Star of David in my chart. What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's a Merkaba. And there happens to be one in the sky right now. And if you're feeling this rush, hooray, it's a, so the Star of David is 2 grand trines, right? Flipped upside down to look like a Merkaba. And I think we have earth and our water and air right now. I have to look at a chart, sorry. And it also often includes a mystic rectangle and a grand cross.
So what does that actually mean for her personally?
Well, think of who David was in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
King of the Jews, right? And he brought everything together. Everybody was willing to follow him and do for him. And having that Star of David in your chart endears people to you. They offer you support. They are there for you when you need them. You don't have to scream very loud. Unless it's a teenager, don't quote me on that.
Oh, well, you see, that's great. Okay, next. Hey, Vicki, I'm a Libra, Sun, Capricorn, rising, and Cancer moon. So what's your question?
So her Cancer moon is opposite her rising sign. So her rising sign, that Capricorn rising, gives you, it's in your first house. So that gives you the ability to be the leader and keep your emotions.
Yeah, she says, what does my 2023 look
Leo
like?
North Node. Wow, it's stationed direct. Yeah, that's okay. So, all right. So you're forgot what your sun is.
Her sun.
Libra sun. That's all right. Libra sun,
Capricorn,
Leo North
Libra,
Node.
Yeah, and
You're
Cancer.
able to, your Leo North Node wants you to follow your heart, but it's also about doing things in a loving way for others. It's in the 8th house. So Leo has the ability to be the entertainer. And the 8th house is the house of secrets. So it is better for you to entertain and keep your secrets about what is really hurting you, to stay your higher self. That Libra wants to have balance. And I your Libra is your sun, but I have a Libra rising, so I understand that. And what house is your sun in? If you can tell me.
Vicki, can you tell us, or do you know?
Well, I can't tell.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Only that I can only tell that her Cancer moon is in the 7th house and her rising sign is in the 1st house, because that's where your chart begins. The moment you open your eyes.
She says 9th.
In the 9th.
9th.
Okay, so that Libra is also now out to be the bringer of higher education, finding balance through higher education. So you're someone who probably hungers and reads books and is out to learn all the time. And that Leo North Node, in order to get to the highest part of Capricorn, is to not let Capricorn be overbearing, strong. I mean, he can be the school principal. He can be the Pope, because Capricorn is just that. He's ruled by Saturn. But in the 1st house, it can be an overbearing, structural me, because the 1st house is all about me. It's the I house. It is all about this part. It is ruled by Aries. The 1st house is ruled by Aries. And this is where we open our eyes. This is where we take our first breath. This is all right here in the sigil that represents Aries to begin with, the eyebrows and the nose.
Okay.
So
right, there you go.
What's that?
I said, well, there you go, Vicki.
Yeah, right. So your best way to get things done and to be your best self is to be the entertainer. Don't divulge all your secrets. Keep some. Stick to higher education and find balance by making sure that Capricorn tempers himself. Isn't pushed.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next. All right. Hey, Rowena, how does 2023 look for me? Do you need, oh, okay. There she goes. North Node, Aquarius, progress, sign, Aquarius, Sun, Scorpio, Moon, Leo, Ascendant, Virgo. Good gosh. Y'all all know so much more about astrology than I do.
So, yeah. So, all right, I'll be honest. I don't often work with progressed, but no biggie, because now you have this extra support for your progressed sun. Right? Am I reading this right? Your ascendant is Virgo, the moon is Leo, the progressed sun is Aquarius, and your north node is Aquarius. You're all about making these changes, seeing things happen, doing it in a lightning bolt moment, in that earthquake, not necessarily earth shattering, but just the quickening moment. The Scorpio moon, Leo moon, sorry. I'm probably not reading this correctly then.
Okay, you want North Node is Aquarius, and then let's Scorpio. Go to Sun is Scorpio, and Moon is Leo. So why don't you just work with that?
Yeah, what?
Oh, okay. Sun is Scorpio.
Email me, Rohanna.
And Ascendant is, okay. Yeah, that's hard to figure out where you to go on that.
Oh,
okay.
So
and progress sign and ascendant. So you've got, how about working with your Sun, Scorpio, Moon, Leo?
The Scorpio sun and the Leo moon and the Virgo ascendant in your Aquarius north node. And I would say that you are still, because it's that Aquarian north node, you are still all about letting go of the past and moving forward. What is important to you? The south node is definitely what needs to be let go of, and the north node is the other end of that. You know, Rahu and Ketu were one dragon that was formed by the two gods, the gods of the benefics and the evil demons, and they separated from each other. And so one, that separation is letting go of the demons. The demon end is the tail. What has haunted you? Where's your Chiron? What wound do you have that you should really allow to be set free, right? And then that Scorpio sun of yours can have the joy. I don't know what house that's in, but Scorpio also can get a bad rap sometimes as being heavy and overbearing and woe is me, woe is me. But that's not necessarily the way Scorpio is. Just wants to get the job done. He's all business. And then Leo, your moon in Leo, can be emotional. Leo is controlled by the heart. But Leo is also the entertainer. So when he controls his emotions, which may be hard to do because that's your moon and the moon is emotions, it would depend on aspects, of course. But that Leo, if he is in entertainment mode, children love to be around him. He can be playful with the adults around him, great with a quick joke, great on a dramatic stage to a comedic stage. And that Virgo is trying to perfect it all. And that may be a big part of some of your Chiron wounding, is that trying to get it all perfect, and we can't. So you have to let go of what isn't perfect.
Okay, well, we're going to take this one last question. Okay. Hey, Vivian.
Oh my God, time is fun.
Okay, what's in store for Virgo 919 in 2023? Please, thank you. So what's in store for Virgo for 2023 is what she's asking.
Okay, that's your birthday? Probably, huh?
Yes.
Well, actually, okay, I haven't gotten too deep into what's going to happen in Virgo, but Virgo is going to be a pleasant time of the year in 2023. Middle of the month, something big is supposed to happen at 24 degrees. And I think it's a shift in planets. I haven't done the notes the second time. I have to go through all the stuff a second time. But Virgo is going to be a pleasant time because we're not going to get into the phases of the eclipses, which are going to come right around Thanksgiving. So won't quite be in that phase.
Yeah. I'm going to comment on Chris MK's comment here. She says, Diana, you do an amazing job at explaining, but have to admit that it's all clear as mud to me, and I've had 2 astrological charts done. I'm with you, Chris MK. I am the exact same way. It's clear as mud. And I deal with ETs, the stars. I deal with all that. But it is like Greek to me. So I understand.
Right.
Anytime anybody starts going off on all these, yeah, it's over my head.
Well, this is where
and I'm going, I'd rather do chemistry or biochemistry, I think, than astrology. So,
you know, it's all mathematics, and as frightening as mathematics can be.
But I am good at math.
Every question you ask, every question you ask has a mathematical solution, but we don't want to talk in terms of 1, 2, 3 plus 125 times. That's over my head. I can't talk like that. But if you want some help understanding your blueprint, email me and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead, and if y'all want to understand or get a lesson or try to have an intuitive reading on your charts, go ahead and email Diana at, go ahead, your email address. Okay, oilptnr@aol.com. And go ahead and email her if you want a reading. This is a great time of year to find out what's coming up for you 2023, have a blueprint of what's happening. So I do thanks for everybody for joining us. Diana, thanks. You've been very educational, even though it's still clear as mud, as Chris said, and for me too. And but you do a great job explaining it. And thanks, Susie, for your help. And Thanks everybody for joining us. And we will see y'all Monday for the Solaris Healing Center. We will be announcing the time. I think Susie and I still need to discuss what time we're going to start doing it next year. So anyway, well, thanks for joining us, and we will see y'all on Monday. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.